The Centurion Project. Chapter 19. The Rat Exercise. Section 2. Part 1. Elias thought long and hard about the new plan as they walked back to their base camp. The returning ponies were met with a loud cheer, and Elias saw Palisade waving the Solar Guard flag around proudly. Aurora Guard's pony waited beside the Pegasus in silence, her expression blank as she watched the celebrating ponies around her. After another round of cheers, Palisade gave it to the unicorn, smiling brightly. She took it with a small, grim nod, and she disappeared in a flash of light. Palisade looked around as everyone continued to celebrate, and his eyes fell on Elias. He let out another cheer as he pointed at the human. "And here's the god of the hour! Let's hear it for Guardsman Bright!" Elias frowned deepened as the ponies around him shouted loudly. Some of them even began to chant his name. No part of him welcomed the attention. The back of his mind simply wanted to relish quietly in the victory with his friends, while the center was whispering dark thoughts about how all of this felt a bit too familiar. Palisade didn't notice Elias' dark expression as he waved the human toward the command tent. The crowd of guards parted before Elias, and at some point, Nightflash hopped down from his shoulders. They continued to cheer as he entered the command tent, his frown clearly present on his face as he found the ponies waiting inside just as jubilant as the ponies outside, save for one. Scarlet grimaced as Steel Scalpel carefully removed what looked like a branch from the Pegasus' wing. Elias gave the pony a questioning look, and he looked away, clearly embarrassed. "I didn't even last 5 minutes," he said, his voice dripping in shame. "Some Earth pony bucked me right into a shrub, and I spent most of the battle trying to get out." Elias gave him a pat on the back. "It's okay, Scarlet. The plan worked. That's what matters. If we're both being honest, the most important contribution was beforehand, not during the fight." Scarlet snorted. "Wow, thanks for the inspiration, Elias. You really make me feel better." Elias plopped down in the chair next to him. "You've been training for, what, a week and a half? Real combat prowess takes years to hone. Right now, your head is the best part of you. The rest will come in time if..." He raised a finger in the air, pointing at Scarlet. "You keep training. You got slumpy because you didn't practice. So if you want to get better, you have to keep pushing it." Scarlet nodded silently. He looked at the map blankly for a second before the smile crept across his muzzle. He looked to Elias. "So, we won, huh? How about that?" Elias sighed and nodded. He removed his helmet and set it on the table, running a hand through his sweaty hair. "That we did," he replied. He felt a poke on his arm, breaking him from a short daze. Scalpel looked at him expectantly, and Elias met his gaze with confusion. "Doc, I'm more than..." He hissed in pain as Scalpel wrenched his left arm up. The unicorn smirked at him. "Fine. I was watching you the whole time, Elias. I saw those hits you took." He prodded at Elias' ribs, and Elias winced as he felt pokes through his armor. Scalpel clipped his tongue as he charged his horn, letting the magic sit over Elias' bruised ribs. "I must say, though, I'm surprised the aura didn't grab you for this one. I guess because it didn't break anything and you kept going. Well done for that, by the way. I didn't think it was a critical injury. I just really hope it isn't going upon what you view as a critical injury. Otherwise, this exercise might be the death of you." "That wouldn't be so bad," Elias replied. "I go out swinging, and nobody's even going to get hurt. Win-win." Scalpel sighed and shook his head, remaining silent as he healed Elias' side. Palisade cleared his throat, drawing everyone's eyes as he smiled brightly at Elias. "I must say, you were absolutely right about that plan. That was positively exhilarating." He placed his hooves on the table as he got nods of agreement from almost everyone. "I say let's run it again, and we'll win for sure." Elias shook his head as he pushed himself to his feet, grabbing a quill as he began working on the map again, altering the plan. Scalpel hissed in protest as Elias stretched his chest, but the unicorn elected not to give the human any rebuking words. "No, it won't work. In reality, we're going to lose the next round. Whatever we do, it won't work." The happy smiles dropped as everyone stared at Elias like he had just killed their pet dog. Scarlet perked up over his shoulder as he studied Elias' changes to the plan. "Why won't the plan work again, Elias?" He asked softly, his voice void of judgment. He likely just wanted to hear what Elias had to think out loud, and had probably already accepted the human's word as fact. Elias frowned as he erased the block with his fingers, redrawing it a few inches down. Because Palisade was absolutely right when he said this plan was too risky. It relies on too many moving pieces and certain emotions from our opponents. He scratched his hair with his left hand. Every part of the first round was thought out. Whiteshine expected Palisade to run the same plan. He no longer expects that. And if anything, we just pissed off their entire team. Elias looked up to Palisade. We shouldn't have celebrated at all. As soon as those fireworks went into the sky, we should have just turned around in silence and walked home, but we didn't. Now watch the faces of the Solar Guards. They're mad. Not blindly so either. They're sitting over there thinking about how they're going to give us payback for shaming them. But we didn't shame them, Palisade protested. We were just excited that we won for once. No pony said anything bad about them. If anything, we were just so happy the plan worked. Elias nodded as he looked back to the map. True, but that's not how they'll see it. And if Whiteshine is smart, he'll rile them up before the next round. We caught them with their pants down and they know it, so they're gonna come at us with full force. They likely didn't even lay out a plan for last round, but you better be damn sure they're picking apart our strategy as we speak. They have smart ponies on their team. They'll rip our plans apart and come up with a counter that will wipe us out soundly. I have no doubt. Greenleaf scoffed. Great. So what? All of this was for nothing? We get one win and you're ready to give up? That's awfully pathetic. Elias glared silently at the pony. For a few moments, Greenleaf met the glare. Then as it continued, he looked away mumbling to himself as Elias stared in silence. Only when Scarlet tapped him on the shoulder did he look away, and Scarlet pointed to the map. So, what's your plan, Elias? I know you have something working up there. Elias nodded as he put the finishing touches on the map. The way I see it, we're gonna lose the next round, so I'm planning for it. They're gonna try and prove that we're one-trick ponies, and I say let them. Let them think we found a new toy that won us a match. Whiteshine has his face in the mud, and he's listening to everyone who can help him drag it back out. Elias pointed at the blocks on the map. I made minor alterations to the first round plan, but it's essentially the same idea. We just flipped the lanes. This time the center will be the illusion, while the left is the push lane again. They either think we won't try the same lane twice, or they will. Either way, the going will be rough. If you go anywhere at all, I'll be on the right lane. We'll try to push forward, but I doubt we're gonna move much. I have a hunch that the Solar Guard ponies are gonna come at us in full force, but we'll do our best to push through. He sighed as he crossed his arms. My plan is to sacrifice a round, and then we hit them hard in the third round. We get them arrogant again. In the third round, while not easy, will be feasible. Immediately cries of protest rose up, barraging Elias as he stood in silence. We can't just give them a win, we're so close! Let's try one of the old plans, one of the ponies suggested. They won't expect it. Elias waited as they argued. Scalpel finished with his bruises, giving the human a pat on the arm before departing with his medical bag. Elias made minute adjustments to the map, making it perfect while the ponies argued with each other. The entire time, Palisade watched him in silence. He raised a hoof, and eventually the argument ceased as they watched the team captain. What are you thinking, Bright? He asked softly. Elias took a deep breath before he answered, looking away from the map. He looked around the table as he spoke. Look, this is all just a big game of chess. Most battles are. You don't kill a king by rushing him head on. You have to make smart plays, and sometimes you have to sacrifice a pawn or two. If you spend energy trying to save every single pawn, you'll quickly find that they're all gone. Elias sighed deeply as he stared at the table. I learned that lesson the hard way. I celebrated after a few little wins and I got cocky. And I wasn't prepared when the enemy hit me, and when I didn't find time to recover, they kept hitting until everything just ended. Images of pain and fire flashed through his eyes, and Elias reached out a hand to Scarlet, scratching the pony behind the ears. He found solace in the motion, and with a few deep breaths he was able to continue. He looked at the Palisade. If we get too caught up in a single past win here, we're gonna end up being the Almost Brigade. Everyone will look to us and think, They almost did it. They almost beat the odds. They almost won it all. Elias bit his cheek and thought. But almost doesn't count. I'm coming up with a plan to win us the day, and it's a hell of a plan with a lot more risk than the first one. But I think it'll work if we let one round go. If we get the Solar Guards thinking they're on the top of the world again, then we'll have it. We win. Elias shrugged, looked around at the ponies. All victories require sacrifice. I think we can find that here. You just have to trust me. Palisade stared at him carefully, studying Elias. No one else made a noise at the table, save for Scarlet, who whimpered softly, his tongue hanging from his mouth as he enjoyed Elias' scratches. Palisade smirked as he watched the Red Pegasus' antics, then looked around the table. Does any pony have anyone else? Any other groundbreaking plans that can sweep the second round? All he got was silence in response, and Greenleaf glared at Elias, and for a second, his mouth opened, but then it snapped shut and he looked at the table, shaking his head. Palisade sighed and looked at Elias. You were right the first time, Guardsman. I see no reason to doubt your judgment now. He ran a hoof through his mane, letting out a loud exhale. So, how do we go about this? We just throw the second round? Elias shook his head, dropping his hand from Scarlet's head. The pony groaned softly, and for a second he reached out, trying to drag Elias' hand back to his head. When he got a strained look from his fellow ponies, however, he chuckled weakly, then sat low in his seat, doing his best to vanish. No, Elias replied. We have to fight like dogs to try and win. Just because I'm accounting for us losing doesn't mean we should actively try to. I could be absolutely wrong, in which case the plan with its current adjustments could work just fine. He spread his hands. Either way, if we aren't trying our absolute best, they'll suspect foul play, and the third round will slip through our hands. We can't fight any less than our hardest. He gestured to the Palisade. I'd recommend that you keep the flag again. It'll help sell that one-trick play bit. Otherwise, he shrugged and sighed. Fight like hell. Try to win. If we do, then I'll be glad to be wrong, but I have a strong feeling that I won't be. Palisade shared his sigh and nodded. Alright then, that's our plan. Smiles on while we brief and set up. The less ponies know about this is a sacrifice play, the better. Everyone grumbled in agreement, and began to filter out of the tent. Elias growled as he parried a strike from the Earth Pony on his right, while simultaneously blocking the hooves of the Earth Pony on his left. The Solar Guard had definitely stepped up their game. While Elias had so far defeated two separate pairs of ponies, they just kept coming at him in groups of two. The longer he fought, the more tired he got, especially since he was having a rough time overpowering the third pair that was attacking him. Without his assistance, the Lunar Guards around him were steadily being pushed back, with many vanishing as their golden-clad counterparts got the better of them. He had already begun to see Granite vanish as he was dragged down by a pair of Earth ponies, and the last time he had seen Night Flash, the Pegasus had a slash on one of his forelegs and was missing his helmet as he squared off with the Solar Pegasus. Elias dipped under a swing from his left, and responded by lashing out with his Gladius. Feather tasted only air, and the overextension nearly cost him the arm as a wicked axe blade glanced off his wrist guard. Elias slammed his scutum forward, trying to knock the axe from the Earth Pony's teeth, but the mare took a short step back and the strike missed too. Elias tried to take a step back to breathe, but neither of the ponies let him, and they advanced with his steps, their weapons scratching the paint of his scutum. The Lunar Guard line had begun to waver, and though to their credit, those who remained fought on, dishing out as much damage as they could. It didn't matter though. The odds were not in their favor. Elias just hoped that Palisade's group was faring far better than his was. Elias roared as he tried to rush the Earth Pony to his left, only to be driven back by a brutal swing from the one on the right, nearly taking his head off. He took a step back, put off balance as his charge faltered. This didn't go unnoticed, and an opportunistic Pegasus darted in, his hooves slamming down on Elias's calf. Elias howled in pain and did his best not to stumble as hot agony raced up his right leg. He felt the muscles tear as his bones snapped in two. His shield dropped from his grasp, and Elias grabbed the Pegasus by the back of the neck. The pony had been shocked into stillness by Elias's cry of agony, and it would serve to be his downfall. Elias punched the Pegasus twice in the muzzle, breaking the pony's nose before he stabbed the Pegasus in the neck. the weight disappearing from his grip. Elias then cut the earth pony to his right, catching the skunk ponies in his chest. She, too, vanished, leaving one. The earth pony overcame her shock that Elias was still on his feet, and she gripped her axe tighter in her teeth. With a growl, she launched herself at him. Elias swung at her head, trying to cut off the charge. The pain in his leg put his aim off, allowing the earth pony to dip under his sloppy swing. She swung wildly, and then the axe came down in a spray of crimson as it embedded itself into Elias's chest. There we go. A little bit of a shorter one this time around. I had to cut this chapter in half somehow, but I managed to find a decent spot, and I hope you agree. What I also hope for is for you guys to thank my wonderful donators. Thank you, Chase Lemaster, HKH4, aka Texture, Triss, the Animated Ghost, and another, and absolutely insane, thank you to Silent Titan, who upped his thing 100%, which is insane. You guys are amazing, and I'll be working on those Patreon requests, don't you worry. I'm also working on a multi-VA project currently for a change of pace with my typical action or romance focused. It's a little bit more sad, and I can't wait to get that out to you guys. Anyways, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.